Hi, good afternoon. Mike from Greenway. So you're thinking of buying an electric vehicle and you're doing research and you're trying to find out more about them and understand all the details and differences between them and gas cars. And there's a lot of information, probably doing a lot of research on the internet. And, the question is, how do you know who to believe? There's a lot of differing information you'll find different people saying different things. Some people will say you need to replace the battery every 2 or 3 years. Some people will say it lasts a long time. And how do you know who's right, who's wrong? And here's my thoughts on who to read, who to listen, who to talk to when buying an electric vehicle. I found a lot of information or misinformation on the internet as I read about them. I've been driving electric vehicles full time since 2013, so I've got a lot of experience with them. And so when I read some articles and information on the internet, sometimes I really question the validity of the data that they're presenting, or even the references that they present or don't present. And so I guess the first stop I would suggest is if you really wanted some good, valuable information about electric vehicles, is try to find someone who owns one. Those are the best people to talk to. They will have the information that you're looking for. They'll have the experience. They may have only driven one or two electric vehicles. They might only be able to speak to their experience for their personal vehicle. But I think a person who's been driving a vehicle for 1 or 2 or 3 years will have a lot of great information for you, and you would be able to ask them a lot of good questions. And often they're kind of excited to talk about their car as well. So if you've got a neighbor down the street that you've seen has an electric car, or you have a coworker, just knock on their door and just say, hey, sorry, excuse me, I've got some questions for you about your EV. You got a second? And to be honest, as an EV driver, we often get those knocks on our door, or people stopping by, or maybe if you don't know anyone at work or in your friend circles, you could even go over to a rapid charger or a charging station nearby to you. There's a website called plugshare.com, and it lists public charging stations. So often when I go to a public charging station, I'm there often just for science experiment, just to see how fast it charges and how well it charges and how well it works. But at least half of the time when I visit a public charging station, someone will come up to me and say, hey, excuse me, is that your car? Or is that an electric car? And then they'll ask me questions like, how long does the battery last? And how long does it take to charge? And how is it in the winter? And how is the heat good? And how about in the summer? Is the air conditioning good? Is it good on the highway? Does it start well? All of those questions, and those are maybe questions you have. And feel free to ask those questions of those owners. Some people are less apt to be interested to answer those questions, but lots of people are really eager to talk to you about their car. So owners of electric vehicles, I would say, would be the best source of information. Another source of information we typically look at when we're looking to buy an electric car is the dealerships. You look for the dealership. They're selling an electric vehicle, and those ones you need to be careful about. So often many dealers will have maybe 100 gas cars and maybe 3 or 4 electric cars on their lot. It's different in different areas, but often the salespeople there are very knowledgeable on the gas cars, and I have not had the chance to study and understand the EVs. So often I've found when I visited dealerships asking questions about EVs, they're a little bit hesitant or nervous about answering the questions. So unless you find someone you find to be an expert at the dealership, you're probably not going to be successful in getting really the best information about the electric cars from the dealership, unless they've got someone who specializes in electric vehicles. And even then, you might want to ask that person, have you driven this car? Have you lived with it for a week or two? Sometimes they'll have had taken them for a test drive only, but you really don't get to know a car until you've driven it for a week or 2 or 3 at least, or a month or more. So those are some, a question to consider when asking a dealer. So what about other options? What else is out there? I hear there's different news articles in the news that you read, or you read of stories, and often news articles are published if they are super interesting and somewhat potentially sensationalized. News companies, when they're producing news articles, they don't want to have boring news. They want to have exciting news. So they're going to tell you, oh, this car caught on fire, or oh, this person was driving their car and it suddenly ran out of charge, and the story about that person. But again, those articles maybe aren't really great for finding out what the reality is of living with an electric vehicle. Another place you could research electric vehicles about is message forums on websites. So different vehicles will have different websites, and you'll have messages and forums and that you can read that are mostly written from people who are driving those vehicles. So, for example, if a person has a Tesla and they have a warning message on their screen, often the Tesla person will go to the Tesla message forum or message board, and they'll do a search and say, you know what, I got this message here, I wonder what it means. And then you'll find all kinds of information on that particular message. And I'm not saying that message is valuable for you as a researcher, but those message forums are handy to read through just so you can see the experiences of real life drivers of electric vehicles. These are actually people who have driven electric vehicles, and really those are the best source of information for you when you're doing your research. If you want to step away from the website for a minute and consider other options, there's a lot of electric vehicle clubs that exist in different locations, different cities. So you might just do a Google search on electric vehicle club in your city and see if there is one. I know there's lots. There's a lot of provinces and states and cities that have electric vehicle clubs. Those clubs will often have meetings, monthly meetings. They'll have either online or in-person meetings. Sometimes they'll have car shows as well. Those are excellent opportunities for you to get out and talk to those folks, and it'll be a pretty casual environment. They're not trying to sell you anything. You've got a situation where you can ask those questions of real life drivers. How long have you had your car? And you can ask all those questions. Is it good in the winter? Is it have nice good heat? How is it on the highway? How long of a range did you get? Have you had any trouble with it? Has there been any problems? How's the maintenance? All those questions are things that you might want to learn more about, and those electric vehicle clubs will have a lot of excellent people who are interested and willing to share their experience with you. So those are some of the ideas that I thought I would share with you about electric vehicles. I guess I'd sort of, as a final thought, caution you on some online content that I read. There are definitely some sources out there that will publish and or advertise information which is invalid or incorrect information. It's based on assumptions and well, I heard you have to replace the battery every 3 years, so therefore I'm not buying an electric vehicle because I don't want to spend $10,000 every 3 years to replace the vehicle battery. And I only know that because I heard it through a friend who saw it online somewhere on Instagram or Twitter or X. And those kinds of sources of information are really not too reliable. So it's a matter of filtering out, as with any news, filtering out what seems valid, relevant, accurate, and what is presented as news but maybe is not presenting the reality of the situation. Anyway, I thought I'd share those thoughts with you, and hopefully that gives you some ideas of where else you can do some research. And There are some good resources on YouTube as well, but I wouldn't just listen to a guy sitting in front of a camera talking on YouTube. There's lots of other good resources to look at as well. So good luck in your research. And if there's any questions that come to mind, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'd be glad to take a look at those, and maybe it can turn into a video, or I can leave a note there for you. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that, and perhaps consider subscribing for future videos. Thanks very much. Have a great day.